As you can probably tell from the title of this video, I proposed to my girlfriend, now fiance, this past weekend and she said yes, which still feels a little surreal to say out loud. And I'll throw up a picture here on the screen because it's one of those moments that I'll remember forever, and she will as well. I wanted to sit down and share this life update with you guys because if you've been following this channel for a while, you've heard me talk a lot about money, a lot about investing, a lot about personal finance, but this is one of those big life events that's just worth sharing. This is also a great opportunity to talk a little bit about the background of our relationship. I also want to walk through how we're going to think about finances together going forward, how we plan to handle money as a married couple, and also how we're approaching budgeting for the wedding without getting in the way of our financial goals in the process. Getting engaged is the beginning of merging our two lives together, and that includes money, priorities, long term plans. So I figured it would be interesting to pull back the curtain a little bit and show you how we're thinking about all of this as we move into the next phase of our lives. We first met in 2023 and almost right away got hit with a little bit of relationship adversity. And to be fair, this one was all my doing because shortly after we started dating, I was slated to move across the country for a promotion at my job, which meant that if we wanted to keep the relationship going, we were going to have to do long distance. At the time, that felt pretty intimidating for both of us because the reality of long distance is that you're suddenly a plane flight away from each other. And instead of seeing each other every day, you're lucky if you get to see each other once a month. And when you first hear that, it definitely makes you wonder how it's all going to work. But looking back at it now, it was obviously worth it because I knew early on that she was someone really special to me, and we were both willing to do whatever it took to make long distance work. So if any of you watching this are currently in a long distance relationship, just know you're definitely not the only one going through this challenge. The biggest thing that made long distance work for us was communication. And when I say communication, I really mean every single day without fail. Even if we both had long days at work or didn't feel like talking much, we still made it a priority to connect. And when I say talking, I obviously mean FaceTiming because seeing each other face to face, even through a screen, makes a huge difference compared to just sending texts back and forth. That daily communication is really what kept the relationship strong because nothing ever had time to build up or sit unresolved. I'm obviously no dating coach, but the one thing I realized during that time is that the same discipline I try to apply to other areas of my life, whether it's work, finances, fitness, also applies to relationships. I made it a priority to stay consistent with communication and with visiting each other. And sometimes that meant picking up extra shifts at work or working a little harder just to afford another flight so we could spend a weekend together. And the important part is that she was also just as willing to make those sacrifices, which leads into probably the second biggest thing that makes these long distance relationships work, which is simply being on the same page and both putting in the effort because a relationship is obviously a two-way street. One thing that helped us a lot during the year of long distance was that whenever we saw each other, we would always book the next trip before leaving so we had something to look forward to. That gave us a countdown and a goal, which honestly made the distance feel a lot more manageable because we always knew when the next time was that we'd see each other. So fast forward about a year, and she was eventually able to relocate for a job. We moved in together, spent the last year living together. The relationship kept getting stronger, and we even got a puppy together, which I'll throw a picture up on the screen here for the golden retriever lovers out there. And last week I proposed, and she said yes, and it ended up being one of the best days of our lives. Now, this is a personal finance channel, so I'm definitely not a relationship guru or a dating advice guru by any means. But one thing I've realized is how important it is to be on the same page with the fundamentals and your core beliefs. What I mean by that is being aligned on the big things that actually shape your life over the long period of time, like religion, family planning, life goals, personal values, politics, and just being with someone that genuinely supports you and the direction that you want to go in your life. Because life isn't always going to be smooth and there will absolutely be tough tests along the way. And during those times, you need to know that you're both going to show up for each other and pull in the same direction instead of against one another. My fiance aligns with me on all those things I just talked about. And honestly, I think that's a big reason why our relationship has been so strong and why this next step of being engaged feels natural for both of us. Now, pivoting to finances, my fiance and I actually have pretty different approaches when it comes to money. but they work really well together overall. She is way better at sticking to budgets, saving money, finding good deals, coming up with DIY improvements. I'm a little more on the side of investing, future planning, and running different side hustles. So the way our financial strengths line up actually complements each other really well. And I think that's an important thing to recognize in any relationship because you don't both have to be good at the exact same things financially. A lot of it just comes down to dividing and conquering, understanding what each person naturally does well, and then setting clear financial goals that you're both working towards together. One of the biggest reasons relationships fail is because of money problems. And when finances aren't talked about openly or when two people are pulling in completely different directions, that can create a lot of stress financially over time. But when you're aligned on the goals and each person brings in their own strengths to the table, managing money as a couple becomes a lot smoother. The next big milestone for us will obviously be planning the wedding and figuring out the budget for the wedding. We don't know exactly what contributions might look like from the family yet, but we're already having a number in mind that we would personally feel comfortable putting towards the wedding. And we've set a savings goal around that so we can start preparing ahead of time. We're planning to get married next year, so the plan is to open up separate wedding funds where we can both contribute regularly and slowly build up money over a long period of time. So that when those bigger milestone expenses come for the wedding, we won't be surprised by them. And if we need to dip in a bit to our existing savings for an initial deposit for the wedding or something like that, we can certainly do that as well without it hurting us right now. And this is honestly a good example of why having a bit of a cash buffer is so important. I knew I was going to propose, so when this life event came up for me, I was ready financially and I had a plan. Realistically, we might have to just cut back on a trip or two or push a couple things out for a year. And that's obviously a trade off we're both completely willing to make in order to make our wedding day as special as possible. So I want to keep this one short and sweet, and that's all I had for you guys in this video. Leave a comment down below if you have experience budgeting for a wedding, and if you are engaged and married, how you manage your finances with your significant other. I would love to hear any tips or tricks you have for budgeting for a wedding because I know they are expensive. As always, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.